The Trump administration has run millions of voter registrations through government databases to check eligibility. Critics warn this process could remove valid voters from the rolls before the November elections. At least 67 million registrations, primarily from states controlled by Republicans, have gone through this verification program at the Department of Homeland Security. Tens of thousands of these records have been flagged as either potential non-citizens or individuals who may have passed away. The verification process uses SVE, which stands for Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements. This system was established under immigration law to help federal, state, and local agencies prevent government benefits from going to non-citizens. However, advocacy groups have raised concerns that the system is prone to error. For instance, a lawyer with the American Civil Liberties Union of Ohio noted that if a voter is wrongly removed, they might lose their chance to correct the record and vote. One example cited was a voter flagged as a potential non-citizen after Texas ran its voter file through the DS system, even though the individual had become a citizen more than a decade earlier. The ACLU of Ohio is currently challenging an Ohio law that requires monthly checks using the DS system. The next phase involves monitoring how courts address the legality and impact of these database flags on voter rights. Here is a brief news update. Details were not available for this story. One of Ukraine's largest drone strikes on Russia killed at least 4 people, including 3 near Moscow, and wounded a dozen others, local authorities said Sunday. In Ukraine's strikes on Russia, a woman was killed after a drone hit her home in Khimki, a Russian city just northwest of Moscow, and 2 men died in the village of Pogorelki, which is 10 kilometers, 6 miles north of the capital, according to local Gov in Moscow itself. At least 12 people were wounded in the nighttime strike, mostly near the entrance to the city's oil refinery, Mayor Sergei Sobyanin reported. Russian defenses shot down 81 drones headed for Moscow overnight, state agency TASS reported, citing Sobyanin, marking one of the largest attacks on the city since Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine on Feb. Russian air defenses destroyed 556 drones over Russia overnight, the country's defense ministry said Sunday morning, shortly after midday local time. It reported that more than 1,000 drones had been shot down or jammed in the previous 24 hours. Zelensky said that the drones had flown more than 500 kilometers, 310 miles from Ukrainian territory, and that Ukraine was overcoming Russian air defense systems concentrated in and around the capital. The World Health Organization declared the Ebola disease outbreak in Congo and Uganda a public health emergency of international concern on Sunday. By Saturday, reports indicated 336 suspected cases and 88 deaths. All confirmed cases were located in Congo, with 2 additional cases reported in neighboring Uganda. Health authorities state the current outbreak is linked to the Bundibugyo virus, a rare variant for which no approved vaccines or treatments currently exist. This is notable because while more than 20 Ebola outbreaks have occurred in the region, including 17 in Congo since the disease first appeared in 1976, this marks only the 3rd time the Bundibugyo virus has been reported. The WHO clarified that this emergency declaration does not meet the criteria for a pandemic emergency, and the agency advised against closing international borders. However, officials noted a risk of further spread due to intense population movement and attacks by armed groups in parts of the Ituri province. The virus was previously detected in Uganda's Bundibugyo district during an outbreak in 2007 and 2008. The Africa CDC has noted a major concern regarding the proximity of the affected areas to Uganda and South Sudan. The next step involves monitoring the situation, as the WHO's declaration is intended to prompt action from donor agencies and countries worldwide. U.S. President Donald Trump spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday, according to Netanyahu's office. The meeting occurred amid rising regional tensions, including drone and missile attacks targeting Gulf Arab states. The discussion took place while the region remains concerned about the stability of the Iran ceasefire. Separately, a drone strike targeted the United Arab Emirates' sole nuclear power plant, sparking a fire on its perimeter. Officials reported no injuries or radiological release from the incident. The UAE's nuclear energy program operates under a specific agreement with the United States, which required the nation to forego domestic uranium enrichment and reprocessing of spent fuel. This program is centered at the Baraka plant, which went online in 2020. Meanwhile, the UAE Defense Ministry reported that 3 drones crossed its western border with Saudi Arabia, with 2 of those aircraft being intercepted. Trump posted on social media shortly after the call, stating that for Iran, the clock is ticking, and they better get moving. Fast or there won't be anything left of them. The immediate focus remains on the escalating tensions, as fighting has heated up between Israel and the Iran-backed Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon despite a nominal ceasefire. Management and labor unions for workers on the Long Island Railroad have been summoned to mediation after a strike threatened the morning commute across the New York City region. The dispute began after unions representing about 3,500 workers failed to reach an agreement with rail management over pay and work rules. The National Mediation Board, a federal agency that oversees railroads and airlines, stepped in on Sunday to help resume bargaining between the unions and the Metropolitan Transportation Authority, or MTA. This marks the first strike on the LIRR in over 30 years, following a stoppage in 1994. The MTA had previously warned that there is no substitute for the railway, urging commuters to work remotely if possible due to warnings of severe congestion and delays. Meanwhile, one of the unions involved stated that the pressure from the picket lines was having an effect. The coalition of unions representing LIRR workers stated they are seeking improved pay and conditions after years without wage increases. The next step remains the mediation process involving the federal board, the unions, and the MTA. Crew members safely eject after Navy jets collide during Idaho Air Show. The incident occurred near the Mountain Home Air Force Base during the Gunfighter Skies Air Show. The base reportedly locked down following the collision. All 4 of the crew members from the planes ejected safely, said Kim Sykes, marketing director with Silver Wings of Idaho, which helped to plan the air show. Sykes said the crash occurred off base, and she did not see the crash but saw the smoke afterward. The base said in a social media post that it was locked down following the incident during the Gunfighter Skies Air Show. Navy loses 2 aircraft from USS Nimitz aircraft carrier within 30 minutes. Multiple witnesses reported 2 planes collided and crashed, and videos posted online showed 4 parachutes opening in the sky as the aircraft plummeted to the ground near the base about 50 miles, 80 kilometers south of Boise. Organizers said the popular air show that includes flying demonstrations and parachute jumps is a celebration of aviation history and a look at modern military capabilities. The air show, called the Gunfighter Skies Air Show, is described by organizers as a celebration of aviation history and a look at modern military capabilities. A conservative prayer event took place on the National Mall, featuring addresses from Trump and administration officials. The event was organized by Freedom 250, a public-private group working with the White House to mark the 250th anniversary of America. No further details regarding the event's immediate aftermath or next steps were provided in the source reporting. The next update will need to clarify what changes, who is affected, and what officials or records confirm. New York Governor Kathy Hochul pleaded with unions representing workers for the Long Island Railroad, or LIRR, to resume negotiations, stating that the ongoing work stoppage harms everyone involved. The dispute centers on negotiations between the Metropolitan Transportation Authority and 5 unions regarding worker salaries and health care premiums. The LIRR, which serves New York City and its eastern suburbs, ceased operations and went on strike just after midnight Friday. The stoppage, which is described as the first in 3 decades, entered its 2nd day amid the impasse. Union representatives stated that the workers are fighting to keep pace with the rising cost of living in the New York region after years without a pay increase. Meanwhile, MTA Chairman John Lieber stated that the agency had provided the union with everything they had requested in terms of pay. Governor Hochul emphasized the system's importance, calling the railroad the lifeblood of Long Island, and noted that no one benefits from a strike. However, Kevin Sexton, National Vice President of the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen, said no new negotiations have been scheduled, adding that the parties remain far apart. The next test remains the resumption of talks between the MTA and the unions over the contract terms. Venezuela's government announced Saturday the deportation of Alex Saab, a close ally of Nicolás Maduro, who faces several criminal investigations in the United States. This move comes less than 3 years after Saab received a pardon from President Joe Biden as part of a prisoner swap. The deportation marks a significant reversal for Saab, who had previously fought to return to Venezuela after an international arrest in 2020. Following his last arrest, the Venezuelan Immigration Authority stated the decision was based on several ongoing criminal investigations. Previously, acting President Delcy Rodriguez had claimed Saab was an innocent Venezuelan diplomat who was illegally detained while on a humanitarian mission to Iran. However, Rodriguez had also demoted Saab, removing him from her cabinet and stripping him of his role as a key contact for an investment in the country. Timing raises questions, as Saab may be asked to testify against his former protector, who is currently awaiting trial on drug charges in Manhattan. The deportation decision is reportedly citing Saab's status as a Colombian citizen, which some sources noted was a reference to Venezuela and law regarding the extradition of its nationals. The next developments depend on filings from investigators or attorneys regarding Saab's potential testimony. The central development is Texas has tightened standards for camps after deadly flooding last July. With summer camp season about to start, only 9 camps are approved to open and more than 300 are awaiting their licenses. Some details remain unresolved. Later updates would be needed before stating broader consequences. The next update will need to clarify what changes, who is affected, and what officials or records confirm. Bulgarian singer Dara won the 70th Eurovision Song Contest on Saturday with her song Bangaranga, marking the country's first-ever victory in the event. Dara beat 24 other competitors during the grand final held in Vienna. The contest featured acts from 25 countries competing for the pop crown. Dara beat 24 other competitors during Saturday's grand final in Vienna. Israeli competitor Noam Beton came second after a contest clouded by protests against the country's participation. Eurovision historian Dean Violetic said the contest often produces surprises. Millions of viewers around the world cast judgment on a fiery Finnish violinist, a Moldovan folk rapper, a Serbian metal band, and many more at Eurovision's 70th anniversary event. The campy, colorful contest has been likened to the World Cup with songs instead of soccer. The contest, which has been likened to the World Cup with songs instead of soccer, saw millions of viewers casting judgment on diverse acts, including a Finnish violinist and a Moldovan folk rapper.